You're back with us on America's Forum on Newsmax TV. I'm J.D. Hayworth. John Bachman back beside me. Now, astute viewers may recall Friday you had to depart midway through our program because you had a special assignment.
Yeah, especially after our earlier conversation about drinking alcohol, beers on a Friday afternoon. I wanted to make sure I brought back some evidence of where I was.
That's right. You
I
were
was
not,
working.
just for the record, this was not an early vacation. You were on assignment.
That's right. I was interviewing a guy named Jimmy Collins. And for folks who don't know, Jimmy Collins is a former president and chief operating officer at Chick-fil-A, the billion-dollar restaurant business. His book, Creative Followership, explains how Mr. Collins rose from his birthplace, an unpainted sharecropper shack in rural Georgia, to one of the highest-paid positions in Chick-fil-A.
I've written about followership because when you think about the comparison of the number of leaders and followers, how many more do you think there are? There are thousands of followers for each leader. And I understand in the year 2012, there were over 3,000 books published on leadership. I don't know how many on followership that year, but do you know how many books were published on followership in 2013?
I'm guessing not many.
One, mine. I believe that the best approach with young people is to look at their career experience from the followership viewpoint rather than trying to start out being a leader. My book, Creative Followership, tries to position them where they know how to do it. It's based on principles that they can apply. They'll work for anyone at any level of responsibility in any organization. But my primary audience here is young adults just starting their career and those a little older who would like to take on more responsibility and find a new direction to advance their careers.
So what you're saying is in order to learn how to lead, you have to learn how to follow first.
Well, not necessarily, but you got to learn how to follow before you can do anything else. Some of those may become leaders. And what I have seen is with creative followership, if people learn to practice this, they turn out being executives. Now, I don't call all the people leaders that other people call leaders. I think the word is overused. Mm-hmm. And what I prefer to say is you can develop into an executive rather than you will develop into a leader.
I think that's an interesting point because working for a lot of bosses over the years, certainly you can see the ones who understood the two-pronged aspect that comes with authority. It's not just the authority, but the responsibility as well. And the people who understood the responsibility definitely were more inspiring as a leader. Before you ran this giant company, you came from some humble beginnings. But what was it about your childhood that made you strive to reach a high level in any organization?
I was born in the middle of a cotton field in a sharecropper, unpainted house. We had no plumbing, no electricity. Now, I didn't know that was bad at the time, but what I did learn is if you're going to make a living as a sharecropper, it is really hard work. And I decided that I would rather wear a suit and a white shirt and a tie. And I decided I would really like to be an executive. So that was my goal. I just wanted to be either an executive or a professional person instead of being a farmer.
And what were some of the steps you took along the way to make that actually happen? Because a lot of kids sit there and they see somebody and say, I want to be like that athlete, or I want to be like that musician, or whatever. But what did you do to actually make it a reality?
I looked for opportunities. I started my first job when I was 12 years old, working in a neighborhood grocery store. And on that job, I learned the first day what I needed to do to be successful. And I also learned it was the same thing as the reason the boss hired me. Do you know why Mr. Brown hired me?
Why is that?
He didn't like to deliver groceries on the bicycle. He didn't like to sweep the floor and carry out the trash. So he hired me to do the things he didn't like to do. I thought, hey, if I do a lot of these things Mr. Brown doesn't like to do, he'll pay me. I'll get to keep this job. I used that same principle when I went to work for Truett Cathy. I decided I will do the things that Truett does not like to do. Truett Cathy, by the way, was the founder of Chick-fil-A.
For those who don't know, yeah. I should clarify.
And I was never one of the figureheads there. I was just one of the guys that got things done. But people would come to the Chick-fil-A office, especially in the early days, And Truett would introduce them to me, and they'd say, "This is Jimmy Collins." And they'd look at me and they'd say, "Well, what do you do around here, Jimmy?" And I said, "I do what Truett does not like to do."
Now, we were talking about this just a few moments ago, this issue of internships. There's been some discussion lately as to the legality of unpaid internships, but you say these internships not only are legal, but vitally important for young people.
They are. They are. You know, people talk about these abused young people that have to work cheap. Pew Research revealed in February in one of their studies on the cost of not going to college that the thing that most college students regretted, 50% of them actually, half of them regretted, was that they did not get more real workplace experience. And I tell young people, get you a part-time job. Look for internships because you want to be able to choose your boss. Don't fill out applications. Don't send off resumes. Go out and find your boss. Choose your boss. Choose the person you really want to work for.
Have young people been sold a bill of goods? You know, so much we hear about every kid getting a trophy, not making the honor roll, but still getting a bumper sticker for their parents saying they're an exceptional student. Do we need to get back to a time when kids understood that not everybody could be number one?
Yes, we do. Because whenever we condition a young person's mind that they've got to be the leader, they begin to believe it. They believe it when older people tell them this is what you should think and this is what you should do.
Well, tell us a little bit more about your website, a little bit more about this site where people can go to find out more information about creative followership.
Well, creativefollowership.com is the website. And each week I post an article on there that represents one of the principles of creative followership, such as do what the boss does not like to do. Do it right. Isn't that simple? Just do it right. I flew down on an airplane. I expected that pilot to land it right. These we post each week. Every day I put a theme for today on there. The theme for the day is a thought that they can use to guide themselves through the day. I've written creative followership so that I can communicate these principles to young people. I use stories in this book that are from my own life experience. And many of these are from when I was young, because I've learned that every audience I speak to, no matter what the age of the people, they've all been young. And they understand. And if you give them a story, whether they're 16 or 60, about something that happened when you were young, what happens in their mind is they think, wait, I had a similar experience to this. I know how to apply this, but I just haven't thought about it.
Well, one of the things we also talked about, JD, was this concern about there might not be internships available. There's been some rulings that internships might not be legal if they're not paid. We talked about that. Internships hugely important to Mr. Collins and to myself, so hopefully that will continue.
Well, love to see internships, but any job is a good job, especially in this economy, because experience quite often is the best teacher.
As we heard Mr. Collins say, much more to come here on America's Forum. We'll be right back after this.